Kia ora koutou katoa, it's Mrs. Goodson here, and this is a video for Level 1 Science about genetic variation, and it's Lesson 14, and it brings everything together that we've been learning about genetic variation. We've been learning about the causes of genetic variation and how genetic information is passed on, inherited from one generation to the next. We've looked at the details of sexual reproduction and meiosis, crossing over and independent assortment. We've talked about mutations and how all these things lead to genetic variation. And in the previous video, we talked about how genetic variation leads to natural selection, and that this is how a species adapts to environment and leads to the amazing genetic diversity that we have, biodiversity that we have in the different parts of the world. Okay, so this final video is about survival in a changing environment. So at the end of this video, that you'll be able to discuss the importance of variation within populations in a changing environment. And this could be due to pest infestation, human activity, disease, drought, or a flood, for example. So, and this we want to know how this allows individuals to survive and pass on their ability to their offspring, and therefore leading to population and species survival. So this brings everything together about genetic variation and why it's important. So as I just mentioned, environments can change for different reasons. There could be a pest infestation, a human activity, disease, drought, flood, climate change. So we're not talking about seasons which change on a regular basis, but just things that can change the environment and affect whether a species is going to survive or not. So if the environment and conditions change, some attributes, so some characteristics that a living thing has may suddenly be more favorable for these organisms. They might be able to find food better. They might have better access to water or light, or be able to resist a disease that's introduced. These organisms, the ones that are more likely to survive if they've got these attributes, they're more likely to survive to adulthood and breed and reproduce. So they will then pass on these traits and the genes that code for them onto their offspring and future generations. These desirable traits have been naturally selected for by the environment, leading to the survival of that species, rather than extinction. Other traits may lead to less survivability. The organism may not live to adulthood and not produce offspring. These traits might die out or become extinct. Over a long period of time and many generations, the traits of the population changes and the population evolves. If the environment changes really rapidly, really fast, some species may not be able to adapt fast enough through natural selection. Through studying the fossil record, we know that many of the organisms that once lived on Earth are now extinct. Dinosaurs are one example. An invasive species, human activity, a disease, organism, a catastrophic environmental change, or a highly successful predator can all contribute to the extinction of species. So this is why genetic variation is important to the survival and evolution of a species. So individuals in a species show a wide range of variation. Those individuals with characteristics most suited to the environment are more likely to survive and reproduce. The genes that allow these individuals to be more successful may be passed on to their offspring. Over generations, the species changes and becomes better adapted to the environment. So that's shown in this picture. So we've got variation, we've got snails with different colours. The ones that are best suited, so in this case the ones with the darker shells are best suited, so we end up with a higher proportion of those, and the lighter ones, maybe they're easier to see, the birds are more likely to eat them, and over time you get a higher ratio and more of the dark shell snails. So that is called evolution by natural selection. So this video has been about survival in a changing environment, and being able to discuss the importance of variation within populations in a changing environment, maybe due to pest infestation, human activity, disease, drought, or flood, allowing individuals to survive and to pass on the ability to their offspring to survive, therefore leading to a population and species survival.